Marilyn Monroe, 1962. More than a movie star, she was an idea, the ultimate symbol of beauty, fame, and loneliness in mid-century America. Born Norma Jean Mortensen in 1926, her early life was shaped by foster homes and instability. She reinvented herself through sheer will, becoming a global icon with films like Some Like It Hot and The 7-Year Itch. By her mid-30s, she was one of the world's most seen women, but also one of its most fragile. Behind the glamour, Monroe battled depression and insomnia. Doctors prescribed heavy doses of barbiturates and sedatives, dangerous even by the looser medical standards of the 1960s. Her career began to fracture under studio pressure, failed relationships, and reports of emotional breakdowns. On August 5, 1962, she was found dead in her home in Los Angeles at just 36 years old. The cause? Acute barbiturate poisoning. Officially listed as a probable suicide, the case instantly fed the perfect storm of mystery. Rumors linked her to President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert, and theories of political cover-ups still circulate 6 decades later. The real tragedy is simpler and sadder. Marilyn was a woman trapped between image and reality, over-medicated, over-tracked, and underprotected. Her death forced Hollywood and mental health advocates to confront how fame can destroy as easily as it elevates. Today, she's remembered not only as an icon, but as a symbol of how the price of celebrity can turn the brightest light into the loneliest shadow.
Natalie Wood, 1981. Hollywood royalty from childhood, acting in Miracle on 34th Street before she turned 10 and earning 3 Oscar nominations before 30. She grew up under studio lights, always balancing innocence and sophistication on screen. Off-screen, though, her life mixed intense ambition with deep unease. She had a lifelong fear of dark water and often spoke of drowning nightmares. On the night of November 28, 1981, Natalie, her husband Robert Wagner, and co-star Christopher Walken were aboard their yacht, Splendor, near California's Catalina Island. Sometime after midnight, she vanished. Her body was later found floating beside a small dinghy. The official cause was accidental drowning, but bruises on her arms and conflicting witness accounts ignited decades of controversy. The boat's captain later claimed that Wagner argued with her that night, though Wagner denied any wrongdoing. Her death shattered Hollywood's golden illusion, how a star adored by millions could vanish in silence, surrounded by luxury and friends. The LA County Sheriff reopened the case in 2011, and Wagner remains listed as a person of interest, though no charges were ever filed. Beyond the speculation, Natalie Wood's story is a haunting emblem of how fame can't protect anyone from private chaos. Her films endure, yet her mystery reminds us that Hollywood's glow often hides its deepest darkness on the water's edge.
Brandon Lee, 1993. Born into legend, the only son of Bruce Lee whose name defined martial arts on film, Brandon inherited his father's charisma and intensity, but he spent most of his short career trying to prove he could stand apart, not live in a shadow. By the early 90s, he landed what was meant to be his breakthrough, the lead in The Crow, a dark action film about vengeance and rebirth. Filming in North Carolina on March 31, 1993, a prop gun meant to fire blanks discharged a bullet fragment left in the barrel from earlier test shots. It struck Brandon in the abdomen. Despite 6 hours of surgery, he died at just 28. The incident was ruled accidental, exposing shocking lapses in on-set safety standards. The tragedy halted production, but the cast and crew finished the film in his honor using early CGI and doubles. When The Crow premiered in 1994, it became both a cult hit and an instant eulogy, a gothic mirror of his character's fate, and eerily of his father's sudden death 20 years before. Brandon's loss overhauled Hollywood's set protocols, leading to stricter firearm regulations, clearer safety audits, and renewed demand for prop weapon bans. His death is remembered not for scandal, but for reform. The film world learned, painfully, that even pretend violence must never risk real life, especially one as promising as Brandon Lee's.
Heath Ledger, 2008. An actor who never did anything halfway. Born in Perth, Australia in 1979, he left home at 17 to chase film work and quickly earned respect with 10 Things I Hate About You and Brokeback Mountain, which brought him an Oscar nomination. By his late 20s, he was known for total immersion, living every emotion of his characters. In 2007, while filming The Dark Knight, Ledger poured himself into the role of the Joker, a performance that changed modern superhero cinema. But away from the camera, his life was slipping out of balance. Long shoots, insomnia, and separation from his family led to exhaustion. To stay functional, he mixed prescription sleeping pills, painkillers, and anti-anxiety drugs. On January 22, 2008, Heath Ledger was found in his New York apartment, dead from an accidental overdose of 6 medications. The world was stunned. A 28-year-old at the peak of talent gone overnight. The Dark Knight released months later, earning him a posthumous Academy Award and turning the role into cinema legend. His death forced the industry to look at how relentless schedules and untreated mental strain can erode even the brightest stars. Ledger's legacy endures not in tragedy, but in mastery, the power of someone who gave everything to his art and reminded Hollywood how fragile brilliance can be.
Bruce Lee, 1973. Before anyone knew the word superstar in the East, there was Bruce Lee. Born in San Francisco in 1940 and raised in Hong Kong, he fused philosophy, choreography, and discipline into something the world had never seen: kung fu as cinematic poetry. By 32, he'd built a global following through Fists of Fury, Wave the Dragon, and his unfinished epic, Game of Death. But in July 1973, just weeks before the Hong Kong premiere of Enter the Dragon, Bruce complained of a headache and lay down after taking a common painkiller. He never woke up. Doctors cited cerebral edema, swelling of the brain, as the cause. His sudden death ignited a storm of theories: heat stroke, allergic reaction, even assassination. None have been proven. What is proven is his impact. Bruce Lee broke racial barriers in Hollywood, reshaped Western views of Asian culture, and inspired generations of athletes and filmmakers. His philosophy, using no way as way, became a mantra far beyond martial arts. When people talk about greatness ending too soon, Bruce Lee sits near the top of that list. In 32 years, he rewrote both cinema and identity, and in his silence left a challenge that still echoes: train the body, free the mind, and never stop evolving.
Brittany Murphy, 2009. The spark every frame needed. Quick, warm, unpredictably funny. Born in Atlanta in 1977, she broke out with Clueless at just 17 and later won praise in 8 Mile and Girl Interrupted. On screen, she radiated confidence. Off screen, her life was spiraling under illness rumors and a volatile marriage to screenwriter Simon Monjack. By her early 30s, Brittany's health and weight had become tabloids' favorite obsession. Insiders later described a house filled with stress, sleep deprivation, and constant medication: antibiotics, antidepressants, painkillers, sometimes all at once. On December 20th, 2009, Brittany collapsed in her Hollywood Hills bathroom and was pronounced dead at 32. The coroner blamed pneumonia, severe anemia, and drug intoxication. 5 months later, Monjack died in the same home of the same stated cause. Speculation exploded: poisoning, toxic mold, conspiracy. Official investigations found no foul play, yet nothing stops the questions. The twin deaths symbolize how fast fame's brightness can burn out when health, stress, and isolation combine. Brittany Murphy's voice was light and hopeful, and losing it forced Hollywood to rethink its disregard for self-care behind the glamour. Today, she's remembered not as a headline, but as the proof that even joy-filled talent can fade when no one's paying attention to the warning signs.
River Phoenix, 1993. Seemed untouchable, handsome, gifted, and openly compassionate. Born on a forest commune in 1970, he was acting by 10 and soon became the indie world's moral center, with roles in Stand By Me and My Own Private Idaho. He was known for his vegan lifestyle, activism, and refusal to conform to Hollywood stereotypes. But fame hit hard. By 23, the physical demands of film, pressure to stay perfect, and a return to nightlife chipped at his calm image. During the early hours of October 31st, 1993, River attended a small gathering at Hollywood's Viper Room, part owned by Johnny Depp. Outside on the sidewalk, he suddenly convulsed and collapsed. Paramedics couldn't revive him. The cause? Acute multi-drug intoxication. Morphine, cocaine, and alcohol. His death sent shockwaves. A young man who preached clean living, undone by the chaos he despised. Media painted him as another fallen star, but friends knew him as a performer who simply lost control in an industry with no safety net. River Phoenix's passing reshaped how Hollywood talked about addiction and youth pressure. The tragedy inspired awareness programs and left a powerful echo. A reminder that talent and integrity aren't armor against the weight of expectation.
Sharon Tate, 1969, was Hollywood's promise of a softer future, graceful, modern, and luminous on screen. Born in Dallas in 1943, she modeled as a teenager before finding her place in films like Valley of the Dolls and The Fearless Vampire Killers, directed by her husband, Roman Polanski. By 26, she was 7 months pregnant, living quietly in the Los Angeles hills and expecting her first child. On the night of August 8, 1969, a group of cult followers sent by Charles Manson broke into her home at 10050 Cielo Drive. They murdered Sharon Tate and 4 others. The next night, they struck again at another house, killing 2 more people. Within weeks, Los Angeles was locked in fear. The chaos shattered the last of the 1960s free love optimism. The motives were as deranged as the acts themselves. Manson hoped the murders would ignite a race war he called Helter Skelter. The killers were caught months later and eventually sentenced to life in prison. For Hollywood, Tate's death marked the end of innocence, the point where sunshine in studios gave way to guards and gates. Her story triggered decades of cultural reflection on cult violence and celebrity exposure. Every anniversary still revives the same haunting contradiction: how someone so full of life could become an emblem of senseless loss.
Anton Yelchin, 2016. The quiet prodigy who never seemed to act, he just was. Born in St. Petersburg in 1989 to professional figure skaters who fled to the United States, he grew up in California and started acting before age 10. Performances in Alpha Dog, Like Crazy, and as Chekhov in the Star Trek reboot revealed a stunning emotional range that promised decades of great work ahead. On the morning of June 19, 2016, Anton stepped outside his LA home. Moments later, his Jeep Grand Cherokee, an SUV later recalled for a faulty gearshift design, rolled backward down his steep driveway, pinning him against a brick pillar. He died within minutes. He was only 27. The freak accident stunned fans worldwide and forced Fiat Chrysler to recall more than 1.1 million vehicles for safety repair. It also exposed how a single design flaw could erase a life in seconds. Anton's legacy endures in artistry rather than tragedy. His parents founded a photographic and arts foundation in his name to support young creatives. Through every tribute, one theme stands out: brilliance doesn't need age. Yelchin's story reminds Hollywood that sometimes loss isn't about excess or scandal, but about how fragile ordinary moments can be.
Paul Walker, 2013. Hollywood's rare mix of action star and genuine human warmth. Born in California in 1973, he began modeling as a child and later became an overnight icon as Brian O'Connor in the Fast and the Furious franchise. Offset, he was a quiet soul, an ocean lover, devoted father, and founder of the disaster relief charity Reach Out Worldwide. On November 30th, 2013, during a charity event in Santa Clarita, Walker took a short ride in a friend's Porsche Carrera GT. Minutes later, the car lost control at nearly 100 miles per hour, hit a light pole, and burst into flames. Both men died instantly. Investigators later found no drugs or alcohol, only excessive speed and aging tires.
The tragedy froze fans worldwide. Millions posted tributes, and production of Furious 7 paused for months. In 2015, his brothers helped complete the film using digital technology, allowing his character a graceful farewell. Walker's death forced Hollywood to rethink its relationship with speed culture and stunt realism. Even today, the franchise dedicates each installment to his spirit. His final lesson went beyond cars and fame. It was about balance, kindness, and the difference between living fast and living fully.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, 2014. The actor other actors studied, a master who vanished inside every role. Born in New York in 1967, he built his reputation through raw, honest performances in Capote, The Master, and countless stage works. To audiences, he seemed fearless. To friends, he was also fighting long stretches of addiction. After more than 20 years sober, Hoffman relapsed in 2013 while juggling directing duties, family stress, and fame he never totally embraced. On February 2, 2014, he was found dead in his Manhattan apartment with a needle in his arm. The cause? Acute mixed drug intoxication involving heroin and several prescription medications. He was 46. Hollywood and Broadway mourned publicly, but the deeper conversation was about recovery as a lifelong process. His death highlighted how relapse can strike anyone, regardless of success or support. Hoffman left behind a legacy of empathy. Every role, every hesitation, every imperfect heartbeat on screen. His passing pushed the industry to fund better mental health outreach and reminded fans that genius and vulnerability often exist in the same frame.
Anna Nicole Smith became such a part of pop culture, but she was fiercely independent and wanted to be remembered for more than just the messy headlines. Behind the reality show jokes, Anna Nicole was fighting chronic pain, prescription dependence, and profound grief after losing her 20-year-old son, Daniel, to a drug overdose in 2006. Only 5 months later, on February 8, 2007, she was found unresponsive in a Florida hotel. The autopsy cited an accidental overdose of multiple medications, including powerful sedatives. She was just 39. Her death exposed the messy fusion of celebrity and exploitation, the cameras that never stopped rolling, even as she was breaking down. It spurred new scrutiny of how doctors dispense controlled drugs to famous clients and brought legal consequences for those involved. Anna Nicole Smith wanted to be seen as more than a headline. In the end, her story became a warning about how spectacle can consume a life, and how even small moments of kindness behind the chaos can be forgotten amid all the flashbulbs.
Judith Barsi, 1988, a child star whose future seemed limitless. Born in Los Angeles in 1978 to Hungarian immigrants, she appeared in over 70 commercials and films by age 10, including Jaws 4 and The Land Before Time. Directors praised for maturity. Neighbors heard the opposite, screams from home, hints of a father's temper. Her father, Josef Barsi, was abusive and controlling, threatening the family while Judith's mother quietly planned their escape. On July 25, 1988, violence erupted. He shot and killed Judith and her mother, then turned the gun on himself. The story horrified Hollywood, revealing how invisible domestic abuse could be even inside a child star's busy career. News outlets focused on the brutality, but the long-term outcome was change. The tragedy led to stricter welfare oversight for minors in entertainment and pushed studios to enforce therapist monitoring on set. Today, Judith's voice still lives in her animated roles, bright, trusting, unaware. Her story stands as one of Hollywood's most painful reminders that protection must matter more than profit, and that every missing safeguard costs infinitely more than it saves.
Chris Benoit, 2017. Celebrated as one of the most gifted technical wrestlers of his era, a man defined by precision, discipline, and relentless work ethic. Born in Montreal in 1967, his career stretched from small Canadian rings to global fame in world wrestling entertainment. Fans admired his quiet intensity. Colleagues noticed a growing darkness beneath the focus. In June 2017, tragedy struck.
Over a single weekend at his Georgia home, Benoit killed his wife Nancy and their 7-year-old son Daniel before taking his own life. The horror shocked the sports world. Initial rumors blamed steroids, but investigators soon found a far more complex picture. Severe brain damage consistent with advanced chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the result of years of concussions. His brain, doctors reported, resembled that of an 85-year-old dementia patient. The fallout was immediate. WWE erased Benoit from broadcast and promotional material, while journalists questioned the toll of contact sports on the brain. His case became central to studies on traumatic brain injury, leading to major policy reforms in wrestling and football regarding concussion testing and drug use. For fans, reconciling Benoit's brilliance with his brutality remains impossible. Yet his story forced an uncomfortable truth into daylight. Glory built on unrelenting punishment can destroy the mind that earns it. In the end, his legacy became science, not spectacle, a grim lesson on the hidden cost of performance.
Bob Saget, 2022. The rare entertainer who felt like family to everyone watching. Born in Philadelphia in 1956, he built his career on warmth and timing, becoming America's TV dad as Danny Tanner on Full House and the beloved host of America's Funniest Home Videos. Off-screen, he was razor-sharp and hilariously irreverent, well known in stand-up circles for humor that always came back to kindness. After decades of touring and charity work, Saget seemed unstoppable. On January 9, 2022, he was found unresponsive in his Orlando hotel room only hours after posting cheerful messages to fans. The autopsy revealed a severe skull fracture caused by an accidental blow to the back of the head, likely from an unprotected fall, followed by internal bleeding. He was 65. The investigation found no sign of foul play or substances, just a simple, devastating accident. The suddenness of it, going from a standing ovation to silence, hit audiences hard. Bob Saget's death reignited discussions about unseen injury risks, travel fatigue, and the toll of constant road work on performing artists. More than that, it reminded fans why he mattered. Genuine warmth, loyalty to friends, and endless gratitude for laughter. His loss showed that even those who bring joy to millions can vanish in the quietest, most ordinary moment.